In the early 1820s, a settlement called Jacktown took root along the Wabash River. It was joined by the towns of Chauncey and Kingston, eventually becoming the area we know as West Lafayette. The name Chauncey remains alive and well in the new Chauncey neighborhood near the campus of Purdue University. The diversity of architecture, people, and its proximity to Purdue University make the new Chauncey neighborhood a special place to live. We're in the Craftsman Bungalow home in the new Chauncey neighborhood with owners Chuck Cutter and Susan Curtis. And we're on the front porch, but like many Craftsman Bungalows, the front porch is a common aspect, but yours is enclosed. Susan, do you know a little bit about that story? What more can you tell us?
Well, when this house was originally built in 1922, it was open, and the owners decided to enclose it pretty shortly after they moved in. So sometime in the early 30s, this was actually closed up. So I think that also contributes to the fact that it doesn't stand out as an ahistorical add-on, but sort of fits in with the spirit of the home.
What are some of the other things that you enjoy about this home?
I like, one feature I like, which sounds, I guess, ordinary to most people, would be the closet space. And that was something new at the time in the 1920s when this house was built, to feature big closets, because Victorian houses hardly had any room for storage.
And actually, I like the kitchen because there are big, bright open windows that were designed for the housewife who it was imagined would be in there a lot. And actually, I do like to cook, so I am in there a lot, and it makes it real pleasant and open.
You're both historians, and when you purchased this house, you went into it knowing that there was going to be some restoration work. What are some of the things that you've had to do to this home?
I think mainly we liberated it from decades of choices that really blocked it up and changed it from its original historic simplicity. We tried to use materials that were from the 20s, even though some of the changes that we made in the kitchen and the upstairs bathroom really made it more convenient for us in the 21st century. It's not a 1920s kitchen or upstairs bathroom, but the materials that we use, I think, are really sympathetic to that period.
So it sounds like some of the additions that other homeowners had made, even though they weren't in keeping with the historic accuracy of the home, there was a fortunate, I guess, consequence of what they did because it protected some of those other historically significant pieces of the home.
That's exactly right. And when the siding came off, it was like unwrapping a Christmas present because all of these beautiful architectural details, like an extra wide board in the gable, just all of a sudden popped out, and you could see what the original designer and builder had in mind.
The staircase in your home had a chance to take a look at that earlier, and that's one of my favorite pieces that I've seen in the house. What, if anything, did you have to do to the staircase?
Well, we had to remove the carpeting that went all the way up, typical of the 60s. And then we had a guy come and refinish the steps.
What else have you added to the home in terms of pieces of furniture that also add to the historic feel?
Well, almost everything in our home is secondhand, and it was acquired from estate auctions, and it was actually a result of necessity rather than purposefulness, at least initially. We were in graduate school, we didn't have any money, so you had to buy what you could afford.
Right.
Actually, there are 2 light fixtures in this house that were removed from my parents' home, and I asked if I could have them. And so I had been dragging them around for just the right home to install them, and this was it.
This is it. And Chuck, Susan, thanks so much for this opportunity to see your house.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thanks for being here and including us.
We're in the new Chauncey neighborhood with Joe and Dawn Ogus, who are the owners of this home here on North Chauncey. And you've been here for about 12 years in the neighborhood, and this is actually your second home, is that right?
Yep.
Now, a lot of people, it sounds like, move from home to home in this neighborhood. Why do you think that is?
Well, the neighborhood's just great, and especially this street, we've noticed a lot. People move from house to house. In fact, there's a woman several houses down here who first lived in our first house, Then they moved to this house, and then she moved away, and now she's back. And when she moved back to West Lafayette, wanted to be on the street, and is living in her third house on the street, and has told us that we're going to be contacted first when she moves, so that we can then follow in her footsteps and move into her next house if she ever moves from here.
Does that help a lot with the neighborhood camaraderie?
Definitely.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. So I originally moved here from California, and so my first day at work, I figured I'll walk to work. It's like walking distance, and I know it's only 15 minutes, but I give myself a half hour because I figure I might get lost. And so I start walking to work, and every couple of houses, someone comes out and says, "Oh, you're the new neighbor," and they introduce themselves. And I'm going, "Man, this never happened in California." And so eventually I made it to work, but it was really amazing.
And there's a 4th of July parade that's been happening for over 50 years. And the street gets blocked off, and it's mainly just kids decorating their bikes and riding up and down, but everybody looks forward to it. And I think maybe the kids had something to do with, okay, Mom and Dad, if you're moving, you got to stay on the street. So they've moved to a larger house, but the kids are coming back with their kids, and it's just great.
Now, one of the coolest features of this home isn't one of the original features, but when you're outside, you actually are walking on the roof of the Purdue Memorial Union, and how does that work?
My brother was walking by the Union one day when they were re-roofing a section of it, and they were just taking the slate tiles that were 100 years old and putting them into the dumpster, and he asked if they were being used for anything, and they said no. So he and his stepson took 2 wagons and for a whole day just took as many slate tiles back, and my brother and I, he did the cutting, and we laid down the patio, and we love it because not only is it it's 100 years old, so it's like the same age as the house, even though it's new, but it's part of Purdue, and slate's a great material for a patio, so it worked out fabulous.
Well, that's incredible. Thanks so much for the opportunity to see your home today.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Thank you.
We're with Carl and Lynn Griffin, who have lived in their new Chauncey home since 1986. And Carl, when you guys first found this place, it wasn't the first home you looked at. What was it like when you finally found this home and knew it was the one?
We came in the driveway, and it was mid-fall, and trees just looked great, and we really felt like it didn't take us long to decide that this was the house.
And once inside the house, you've learned that there are some fantastic views. What can you tell us about those views?
Being sort of up on the hill and fairly close to the river itself, during the year you can look across the river valley and you get great views of the trees in their different states during the year as we look across into Lafayette.
Lynn, what's it been like to raise your family in this neighborhood?
We've enjoyed it a lot, and the kids enjoyed it. They very much appreciated, I think, growing up in this area. They even came home for lunch most every day.
Carl, what can you tell me about the tile that surrounds the 2 fireplaces, the raw stone?
Actually a man-made marble-like substance that was made right here in Greater Lafayette in the 20s and 30s. So we do have 2 fireplaces that have that as the marble-like substance. And we enjoy the fact that there's that history that ties it in very much locally.
And what about some of the things that you've done to uncover the original points of interest, especially architecturally, in the home?
We talked about it and decided that we wanted to have a fireplace in our family room, and recognizing that since a lot of the basic part of the structure was still there but covered up, we went about uncovering it, and then I made the fireplace surround basically the hearth. I made it similar to one of the other fireplaces.
Now, you've added some pieces that fit your personal style over the years, and one of the major points of interest in your home is the stained glass window back here. Where did that stained glass window come from? How'd you get it?
Window there, and then the 2 pieces that are here and in the front stairwell came from the 1890s church, First Methodist Church that was in the village. And this is the first house that we've lived in where they really can be attractively displayed.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, Lynn, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
I hope you enjoyed our tour of the historic architecture of New Chauncey neighborhood.
Well, that wraps up our tour. For Mayor John Dennis and Tour de West Lafayette, I'm Stephen Smith.